Hallo miteinander, I'm Geschichte6 and this is Touhou Endless Dream. Many years ago, we've had a let's play of the disappearing of Gensokyo. Endless Dream happens to be made by the same folks, MyACG Studio, although they are only co-developers. Someone by the name of A10AO10 was also involved. A strange choice for a screen name, or perhaps their cat picked it when it stepped on the keyboard. Nonetheless, like Disappearing of Gensokyo, this is a twin-stick shooter, but one with a twist. Whenever the game is started up, you find yourself in a forest clearing where several Gensokians are having a picnic. On a fresh file, only Remu would be playable, but we've unlocked 7 others. Of them, ordinary Marissa will be our protagonist. One more girl can be approached to recruit as a secondary character, so we pick ghostly gardener Yomu. The picnic site serves as a player hub for preparation before the game begins in earnest. For example, randomly generated equipment can be collected from Kanako, but only if you've spent resources on such gifts. Another helpful NPC is Patchouli, who in exchange for misplaced book pages will trade you permanent character-specific improvements. A big list of them is about to drop down. I've already bought up all the upgrades for Marissa and Yomu, as they are my favorite, so to say, classes of this game. Of all the picnic attendees, the most important is also just about the most unassuming. Dopey little Rumia is the big red start button of any playthrough. Isn't it strange to have a picnic so late in the evening? As it turns out, Rumia was oversized and scary on the title screen for a reason. Her darkness expands out of control, becoming the Gensokyo threatening incident of this story. And thus our run starts. I call it a run because this is a roguelite, the big difference Endless Dream has when compared to the Disappearing of Gensokyo. The typical level here comes in the form of an arena that spawns enemies until enough of them have been dispatched. The first zone we went to was a cave. The map and all of its locations are procedurally generated. Enemies we face and the loot we find will also be random. It's how roguelikes and roguelites keep themselves fresh. If they're done well. Is this one? We'll see. It's possible to switch control to the secondary character. The unselected one will still occasionally help with automatic attacks and be safe from taking damage. Only when both girls are down does it mean game over, but it would also spell our doom if the ever-growing sphere of darkness swallowed us up. It's therefore important to select stages that lead you far away from the darkness. Every area we clear leaves a torch that allows us to see further ahead, but they will be extinguished when Rumia engulfs them. It's essentially a race against time, similar to the rebel fleet of Faster Than Light, although not as hectic. I've so far lost from getting caught exactly once. Fighting through battleground after battleground is not all we do. There are special events like Alice in Distress. Those wacky malfunctioning dolls will drag her off screen into oblivion if you let them. We of course save Alice, who gives us a choice of rewards. On a young file, I would always recommend getting a leaf, as that's the currency used for unlocking new playable characters. I already had everyone, so Darkness Fragments it was. There's also the possibility of a boss fight every few levels. Wriggle Nightbug needn't be the first, she just happens to be our lot from a pool of 6. We blast her with a Master Spark out of her first phase into the second of 3, which allows the Bug Lady to spawn Firefly minions. I'd place Wriggle on a low to medium difficulty. The fight will take a little longer still, as we don't have another Master Spark in store. A character's ultimate attack, such as the Spark, uses up magic points, which only regenerate very slowly. Consumables can help in getting hit points back, as well as magic. That's how another Spark is almost ready again for us. A boss will always be accompanied by ever-appearing standard enemies, but victory only comes through their demise. Our reward for winning is only one of these 3 items. While orange equipment counts as the most valuable on paper, Hina's stand puppet that we grabbed is, in my opinion, one of the best upgrades hands down, even beating Okina's backdoor that we spurned. And I'm not just saying that as the Misfortune Goddess's biggest superfan. The Hina doll reduces all damage you suffer from the first 3 sources in every level to 0. That is crazy generous. Getting that at all, let alone as early as we did, makes a run very promising. Not all upgrades may actually be helpful. The sniper rifle we found a few moments ago might be of the second highest quality, purple, but it increases range at the cost of attack power. And we know Marissa's Danmaku is all about power, ze. Perhaps I should have grabbed the rifle as Yomu, or not at all. Our 2 characters do have separate inventories. A balanced idea would be to share loot equally, but in practice I don't think that's too smart. Making one character dominant, in our case Marissa, and only switching to the other situationally is the way to go. Even with few items, Yomu can make herself really useful. And here's another special event, the most common. You can expect to run into Renosuke's nomadic shop about 3 to 4 times per run. The coins you pay the half-beast entrepreneur with are never carried over between runs, but still plentiful, so don't be too stingy. The best item we bought there was probably the bee. Now our attacks are likely to poison enemies, and that's not to be underestimated, as it works on bosses, the most sensible target to stick damage over time on. I hate it when games arbitrarily make all their bosses poison immune. It's a mistake not done here, and should be Game Design 101. I should have mentioned it sooner than now, but we're playing on normal difficulty. I have beaten the game on hard before, and even lunatic in what felt like a fluke. The issue with the higher difficulties is that foes may be more lethal, but also much tankier. Since the progression speed of Touhou Endless Dream mostly depends on your damage output, a playthrough on Lunatic would seemingly move half as fast and, despite the higher stakes, would probably present this game to you as less fun than it could be. That was a worthwhile use of smoke bombs there. That is another consumable, yet one that is used for aggressive purposes, not regenerative. You only have 5 slots per character for consumables of differing types, but the same item can be stacked infinitely. It's rather wise to make room by using consumables you have only few copies of. In the case of the smoke bombs, they help by stunning enemies, and I tend to use them up very soon after getting them. Unlike various food stuff for healing, it is not sensible to hoard them. Yomu has magic points too, but uses them for something less impressive than Marissa's Master Spark. She'll simply fire blade-shaped bullets from her ghost half. It's good enough for the early game and doesn't drain magic too quickly. So about some equipment being detrimental. The second on the right there that Renosuke sells is the Shield of Hisotensoku, and I argue that you should never get it. It transforms all but one of your hit points into shield energy. Shield energy fully replenishes after a stage, so this sounds great at first. However, food basically becomes useless with it. I distinctly remember it killing one of my runs, on the final boss nonetheless. I sat on an unused mountain of healing items, it would have been no problem. Greeting us on the lava cliffs as our second boss fight is the contrarian Amano-Jaku Seija. She uses her gadgets known from Impossible Spell card, but also original hijinks like landmines and my favorite, a bazooka. That's the hardest hitting attack in the game, but one with friendly fire, so Seija ironically often obliterates herself with it. Yomu is a real champion on the final phase, as Seija's projectile reflecting shield is useless against the dual katanas. Our foe unfortunately went down without showing us that bazooka, but at least we possess our first active skill now, Spear the Gungnir. Active skills do not use magic points, instead each works on an individual cooldown. The spear packs a mean punch and pierces through everything in its flight path. Yet I wouldn't say it performs too efficiently on standard levels. Boss killing is what it was truly meant for. Marissa turned out to be my weapon of choice for this game, due to how hard she hits on low to medium distances. Especially good are the large stars she sometimes launches, as those explode into a mighty area of effect. But Yomu 2 is better than you'd expect. In the disappearing of Gensokyo, Yomu was also playable. She wasn't a terrible choice, but that game is generally unkind to melee-focused playstyles, making them ill-suited for a lot of situations. In Touhou Endless Dream though, Yomu has very high defenses and the superb ability to delete bullets by cutting them. It reminds me of how she performed in the completely unrelated Death 3D Yomu game by Ankake Spa. Here too, Yomu's abilities suffice for what's required of her. She can't jump though, which might be better than 3D Yomu game's very crappy jump. Throughout fighting within these arenas, you might have noticed some magic circles on the floor. They look mysterious and eye-catching, so you'll have the instinct to investigate them before you know any better. Unfortunately, they are simply traps, one of several types. The first will spawn additional bullets, another causes fire damage if you stay within. The next freezes you in place. Finally, some will teleport you around the arena. That's the only type that isn't exclusively malevolent, as your new position might be safer than the previous. The Steam achievement for unintentionally or intentionally triggering 100 of these traps shows a picture of Wascally Wabbit Tay wearing a wide-toothy grin. That tells us who to blame, even though she is seen nowhere else in the game. Here's Renosuke again, adding to our already very long list of equipment. Most of them have only passive effects, but that's alright. You don't get experience or level up from fighting. Your strength is exclusively defined by the truckload you're hauling around. Among ours is a literal trash bag. Huh, there's Clown Piece. How peculiar. We'll leave it for today and ask the fairy what's up in our second part. With that, I'm Geshi6, this was Touhou Endless Dream. Bis bald!